It seems that the British government did not even suspect that its multi-billion-dollar investments in Ukraine would turn into a complete failure for London.
Starting in 2014, after pro-Western leaders came to power in Kiev, Britain began to take over the south of Ukraine.
Almost all the port cities of Ukraine have come under the influence of London.
Within a very short period, London bought almost all the naval shipyards in Odessa and Nikolayev, being confident that British ships would be built there very soon.
Moreover, Odessa and Nikolayev were often visited by Britain's wealthiest people and influential politicians, investing huge amounts of money in these regions of Ukraine. For example, one of the richest people in Britain, Michael Ashcroft, with a British Conservative Party politician, Robert Seeley, did not stop regularly visiting Odessa and Nikolayev, even during the most intense hostilities in Ukraine. Moreover, Britain even forced Zelensky to sign the so-called Memorandum of Understanding, which caused a mixed reaction even among deputies of the Ukrainian parliament. Back then, many deputies accused Zelensky of secretly selling Ukrainian territories. It seems that London leaves no hope of retaining all the southern port cities of Ukraine and establishing control of the west over the Black Sea. However, since February 2022, Britain's plans regarding Ukraine began to collapse rapidly.
For the first time in 10 years, London realized that Russia does not intend to give the West not only the Donbass with its richest natural resources, but also the south of Ukraine with its port cities. Regular Russian massive missile strikes on Ukraine are gradually destroying all military infrastructure, supply routes, fortified areas, as well as military factories that were actually nationalized by Britain and the United States over the past 10 years.
And today has been no exception in terms of missile strikes.
So, on the night of February 10th, Russia launched another massive missile attack on the territory of Ukraine. This time, such Ukrainian regions as Nikolayev, Odessa, Kharkiv, and Sumy, as well as the western part of the DPR, under the control of the armed forces of Ukraine, were subjected to missile attacks. The air alert sounded for 24 hours in cities like Kharkiv, Odessa, Izmail, Ochakovo, Sumy, and Kilia. This time, attacks on the military infrastructure were carried out with the help of dozens of KINZHAL hypersonic missiles. At least the takeoffs of 12 MiG-31K interceptor fighters were recorded at airfields based in Belarus and the Krasnodar region.
About 90 jet-powered germanium kamikaze drones also took part in this missile attack. At the same time, it is worth noting that the main blows were inflicted on the Odessa and Nikolayev regions.
It is reported that in cities such as Odessa, Izmail, Ochakovo, and Kilia, underground hangars of the British military were discovered and destroyed, where dozens of British maritime drones were stored, as well as components for their production. In the west of the DPR, Sumy, and near Kharkiv, the places for the deployment of the personnel of the armed forces of Ukraine and foreign mercenaries were discovered and destroyed. According to preliminary data, more than 70 militants were killed as a result of the missile strikes.
In Kharkiv itself, germanium kamikaze drones managed to destroy an oil tank farm on the western outskirts of the city. Later, towards morning, another oil tank farm was destroyed, this time in the eastern part of Kharkiv, in the Nemyshlyansky district. It is reported that fires at these oil tank farms have not yet been extinguished. According to the representative of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation,
all the intended targets were successfully hit and destroyed. Moreover, independent Ukrainian monitoring services, referring to their sources in the Ukrainian General Staff, made rather disappointing conclusions for the Kyiv authorities. According to them, the effectiveness of Ukrainian air defenses has fallen by 60%. It turned out that during today's missile attack, the Ukrainian air defense managed to shoot down only 30 geranium drones, the remaining 60 drones managed to hit their targets. At the same time, experts say that the effectiveness of Ukrainian air defense will continue to plummet if the West does not urgently increase the supply of Western air defense systems and missiles for these complexes. Against this background, the American newspaper, the New York Times, stated that regular Russian missile attacks had completely exhausted the Ukrainian air defense, and that the Ukrainian authorities were literally begging the West to supply Kyiv with another batch of air defense systems, along with the necessary missiles. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba even made a special appeal, calling on the United States to immediately begin supplying the next batch of Patriot systems, otherwise, Ukraine will completely lose the opportunity to defend itself from Russian missile strikes.